Hi, my name's Howard Lim from How Creative. We've been building brands for the last 37 years, and it's my privilege to be presenting to you for iCAN. And I have a lot to discuss because there's a lot to talk about when it comes to taking your idea and creating it as a world-class brand. So let's begin. So the power of innovation, that's really you guys. You are the power of innovation. You're the driving force for groundbreaking solutions to actually further the evolution of societies and cultures. Okay, so evolving, what I'm going to be talking about is the evolution of taking your idea and then building it as a world-class brand. And there is a journey to this. But one of the first things you got to recognize is building a world-class identity. A world-class identity is really where it really establishes a feel of trust and builds loyalty to customers. But there's a formula to this. And the formula is that everything you create, which is called a touch point, which I actually call engagement points in the world of branding as far as definition, is your website, your logos, your vehicle wraps, the product itself, the packaging. Everything needs to have a certain look and feel to it by using the same color, the same fonts. But it goes beyond that. It's also looking at what kind of tone does a copy have? Is it humorous? Is it based on actually being serious? Is it being based on educational and authority? So is it feminine? Is it masculine? So the tone, the look, whole look, feel, and tone and voice needs to be consistent so you look like one single brand. Most companies, what they do, unfortunately, is they have like a website designed by one company, their marketing designed by another company, the social media by another person, and then you look like what I call the Sybil effect where nothing matches. So you got to really look at how to be world class. By the way, this company that we built, WSS, when we rebranded, where they couldn't grow for 25 years. And during the recession, they were doing really poorly. They lost 2 retail stores. What they are is a footwear company. We grew them from 52 retail stores during the recession to over 100, okay, under 4 years. And how they're able to do that is we help reposition them, and we built them an identity that was actually highly identifiable to their target market. When it comes to looking at your idea and conceptualizing it, I always say you got to do a lot of research and figure out whether patents are out there, but what other people are doing directly, indirectly with their products. But what's going to make your product unique from all others? Okay, so a lot of researching needs to take place, and then you can start with prototyping. I always start with my clients to prototype on doing 3D modeling because it's much cheaper than actually doing real physical prototyping or even 3D printing. You really want to look at it on doing a CAD drawing or something equivalent to that to really work out kinks and moderations and alterations and different quote unquote solutions rather than focused on one, come up with a scope of all kinds of ideas off of that one concept. Once that starts to develop, now you can start looking at like maybe perhaps prototyping those ideas, but you want to look at the marketplace again. How is your product going to stack up against others? And so that might be come to a place where you take your idea of a 3D model, a CAD drawing, and now you're actually doing some 3D rendering, and then you're actually doing 3D printing, and actually painting a product and seeing how it feels ergonomically, even comparing to products that are out there, maybe even tuck it underneath your shirt and you're going shopping and you're actually seeing other people in your category and comparing it what it would look like on a shelf. A lot of research needs to take place to see how you would stack up against your competition. So that becomes your research and development, where you're really looking at a bunch of reiterations and transforming your initial idea into something that's actually workable. Here's an example I'm going to give you what we did for our client, Optic Wash, is that he showed us here on the left-hand side this mock-up, okay, where you put your glasses in here and it washes it and then it dries it. And then I had to visualize what it would look like as a finished product. The first place that we went to is looking at the concept and strategizing and positioning that idea. Okay. So the first thing is to position. And the second thing is that I mentioned is to come up with a bunch of 3D models. We came up with a lot of 3D models before we actually moved to a prototype. We had the person in mind or people, partnerships in mind that we wanted to partner with. One of them, by the way, was Oakley Glasses. Guess what? We were able to partner with Oakley Glasses because we were clear on our target market and we were clear on basically how our product was going to differentiate from anybody else that was on the market. We were the first. We're the first eyeglass cleanwear kiosk that ever was invented, and we're working off our patents, and they loved it. So you put your glasses in here, it washes it and it dries it. And so we actually created 4 prototypes, and we got all 4 prototypes to work beautifully. And we did a lot of testing, like 2,000 washes. And from there, then we developed a whole line of assembly line of our products. Okay. So that's an actual product that we created. Again, the identity is so important, the visual identity. And just to explain this even further, is like Coca-Cola has really established themselves as a leading Coke. Now, as part of their brand identity, here are some key secrets. The name itself is recognizable. The script that they use for their logo, Coca-Cola, is very recognizable. The color red that they use is actually something they own in the color space. Pepsi owns blue, Coke owns red. The shape of the bottle is very distinguishable on the shelf. All these things add to the brand identity, that overall look. What happens is it triggers the mind of the consumer going, I've seen that, I trust them. I've seen it, I trust them, and I know their reputation. Okay? So you got to think that way when it's building your brand. And back to looking at the positioning again, is how are you positioning uniquely from all others? In the case of Coca-Cola, with the shape of the bottle. Of course, the secret sauce is actually their formula, is part of their positioning. And of course, their positioning of their messaging is that we open up happiness. That's all part of the positioning, okay, in a marketplace. Again, the visual identity plays a gigantic role, as you can see here, just as this general mock-up. You can see there's a certain look and feel between these brochures. They're not identical, but there's a similar look and layout to it. So a lot of times visual identity does not need to mean that you're identical. It just means that there has to be a familiar enough look and feel that ties the brand identity together. For example, like Apple iPhones, Apple the minis, okay, the laptops, all have a similar look and feel of the actual material being used, the simplicity of the design, okay? Overall, like, brand message is super important. What is your message that you want to send out to your target market that differentiates you from others? What values are you creating? So with Starbucks, for example, was that, hey, instead of like trying to make coffee on your own, we're gonna supply you with actually drive-throughs and places you go to actually communicate and commune with others that also enjoy our brand. So it's all about creating that overall message that differentiates you from all others, okay? Think about who your target market is and think about what message are you saying that's unique and beyond other companies, your competition in the space. That goes for products, information, and services. Another key component is the experience. I'm just using, virtual reality, VR, to show you very quickly, like they're creating a world of virtual reality, right? Versus real world reality. And so they're promising an experiencing of an alter experience, okay? That's their whole position, okay? And so this actually has a huge impact in building that, in creating that journey from your idea as an invention to an actual brand experience. You got to look for the consumer experience. People have branding wrong a lot of times. They think it's like what you're saying. It's not what you're saying that builds the brand. It's what others are saying is what builds a brand. It's about what experience are they having with your brand. It's about what kind of expectations are being met to that experience. Okay. You have to flip things around. Too many inventors, too many owners of businesses are looking down a one-way street. You got to look from the standpoint of the consumer's perspective and what bridges you to them. Here's another experience as far as like when it comes to product launch. Remember what I said, when it comes to product launch, you have to look at how you're going to capture your audience and drive interest to produce sales. So for example, when it comes to desserts, remember back in the days, like, Polly Pies, and it was all about pies and cakes. And now with the younger generation, for smaller snack bites, what's more relevant, right, is smaller snacks they can get and things that are different, such as these. And that actually was a differentiation between frozen yogurt and ice cream. What people want is they want to watch their waist. And so they want to have less calories. So that big shift from ice cream to yogurt, frozen yogurt specifically, it made people feel better about themselves, that they're not eating a lot of calories having ice cream, okay? And then when it comes to these bite-sized desserts, it's the same difference in that regards. When it comes to launching and building your brand, okay, so again, the brand identity is the most important element to your brand, okay? So the right tagline, the right, what I call brand mark, not logo, but the brand mark, the right website, and a similar look and feel. Now you're ready to use marketing. Marketing is designed to actually promote the brand identity. Most people have marketing and branding confused. They think it's one of the same. They're completely different. They put a lot of times the cart before the horse. In other words, they put marketing before building out the brand, look, feel, tone, and voice. And you start marketing something that's half empty, you could say. And so they never get past 25% of their capacity and their actually opportunity to build a strong brand in the marketplace. Okay. You want to build your brand identity first, but you first want to position it, then you want to build the identity, the look and feel, and then you want to be able to promote it through social media, other aspects of brand, marketing, advertising, and PR. Okay. So another thing when it comes to looking at a world-class brand from your idea, whether it's product, service, or information, is you want to create it where customers keep coming back for a better experience and more experiences. So you really want to look at how you could personalize that experience. Maybe it's like, when it comes to like coffee, maybe it's like what Starbucks has is a whole different variety of coffee to fit that person's preferences, okay? So think about it that way when it comes to nurturing your customer experience and engagement, is look at what kind of variety can you bring to that customer that feels like it's more personalized to that person experience. Securing long-term success, what I mean by that is keeping an enhanced reputation and keep building on that consistency. And the more consistent it is, the stronger the reputation builds up. And the stronger the reputation build up from that brand identity, it has the same look and feel, the stronger you're going to actually have yourself a strong footing in the market share, and you're actually going to be able to dominate your market, okay? So you have to look at what is a long-term plan for your idea and what kind of customer experience do you want to create to maintain that leadership in the market space, okay? So can you imagine if Starbucks wasn't consistent with its taste? It was like taste different every time you taste it with that latte, for example. Guess what? It will diminish its reputation if there's not a consistency. So you got to be really clear that you're going to be consistent with that experience, whatever your idea is. Okay, so brand management is really important. There's 3 types of branding people. The one that does a strategy to figure out your positioning in a marketplace, how you're going to differentiate from all others. The second type of branding person is implementation to build that identity, coming up with the right name, tagline, website, product design, so everything has the same look and feel to it. And a third is a brand manager. The brand manager, a job is to make sure the brand's always protected fiercely and the reputation always is strong. Like BMW has a strong reputation, right? German engineering. And I don't know if you remember, you guys, remember back in Tylenol, they had that, I think it was it was in the 80s, where some crazy person put cyanide in the actual capsules um, of Tylenol pills. And what happened was is that they took immediately Tylenol for brand management, took all that product immediately off the shelf, and he changed it into a tablet so then someone could not actually put cyanide in the capsules. That built up the reputation of Tylenol because they were able to take out that crisis and do something immediately. Versus when it came to the oil spill in Florida, that company, and I forget which company that was, but they did not decide to change and actually take a full approach to taking out the problem of the oil spill and take immediate action. In fact, they waited weeks. And what happened was it really damaged the reputation of that company, where it built less trust. Okay. And the stocks, of course, dived and dropped radically. So you got to really look at from a standpoint of brand manager. Again, these three branding people have three different roles. Okay. By myself, I happen to understand all roles over the last 37 years of doing what I do. I actually understand all three roles: strategy, implementation, and management. Here comes market research and expanding your product. So let's say that when it came to beer, you came up with an IP, let's just say with a Pilsner. And that Pilsner did really well in the market space. And actually, when it came to bars, it sold out. Now that you actually had a lot of feedback with that beer and you figured out that distribution, you figured out the challenge that you're bringing in, now's the time to do expansion and create a line of products. Using those same distribution channels makes it easier to actually have a whole line of products, like let's say Pilsner, lagers, IPA, darks, the list goes on, of that one brand. Okay, so think of it that way. A lot of people do make the mistake. A lot of mentors make the mistake where they try to saturate the market too quickly with a line of extensions before getting a good footing in the marketplace. It gets very expensive when you come out with a lot of products at the same time. Okay, and a lot of times if you have one failure, they all fail. It's better that you stick with one product, bring it out there and test it, get feedback, make improvements, and then master that space, and then bring out additional products. Okay. Market trends and then building adaptability. Of course, Apple, when it came out, remember back in the day when it came to mobile phones, all the phones look all different from one another. And then all suddenly Apple, with their actually based on their philosophy, keeping things minimum design, which is basically based on Japanese philosophy, which is minimum design. He created the iPhone where it's a minimum design. You can't get any simpler of a shape. It will never get old. In other words, it's universal and it's timeless. Okay, it's actually quite brilliant. Of course, all the other companies start copying the iPhone, but iPhone had a philosophy why they did it in the first place, which is minimum design. But it's the same look and feel between all their products. They actually were very innovative and actually created a trend in the market space with their specific type of phone. Okay, so what can you offer that actually differentiates from your competition? And how is that adaptation then changed to consumer behavior? For example, the iPhone wasn't just a phone, as we know now, it's really a computer. So having it where it changed the way, especially with the millennials, and the Z generation, they're so glued to the phone now, right? It really changed the behavior of consumers of how to use their phone. That's gigantic. So think about that with your own products, your own innovation. How are you changing the behaviors that actually will give you a strong footing and create a trend in your space, in your category, in your industry, or even create a new category for that matter? So that was, I know it was short, but it was a lot of content. So I suggest that you keep rewinding this because it is being recorded, or it is recorded, I should say. And so there's a lot of quote unquote gems that I like to say that I think I gave to you. I believe I gave to you, that you could walk away with and think about with your own product on its journey from a concept to actually building it where it's world class and it actually dominates the market space. From concept to creation, design a world class brand. And I'd like to thank Mansook for allowing me to present to you. And thank you, all you inventors, for having the courage of making a difference on this planet with your ideas. Thank you.